Allegations abound. Hillary Clinton under federal investigation over possible pay-to-play politics during her time as Secretary of State. This as Republican senators refer the author of the so-called Trump dossier for criminal investigation. And tonight we're learning there was more than one White House official asking Attorney General Jeff Sessions to stay on the Russia case and not to recuse himself as he did. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harrods is following all of these developments, joins us with the latest. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. In a series of phone calls, more than one White House official lobbied the Attorney General, discouraging his recusal from the Russia case. Sources familiar with the discussion said White House counsel Don McGahn, former Press Secretary Sean Spicer, and former Chief of Staff Reince Priebus all spoke with Sessions as pressure mounted on the Attorney General after his meeting with the Russian ambassador came to light. Contacted by Fox, Spicer denied it, and we are in the process of reaching out to Priebus for comment. A separate source said the president was deeply frustrated with Sessions because while under consideration for Attorney General, Sessions gave no indication he would recuse himself. Lawmakers have pressed the Attorney General on the issues.
Has the president ever expressed his frustration to you regarding your decision to recuse yourself?
Senator Heinrich, I'm not able to share with this committee private communications.
Because you're invoking executive privilege.
I'm not able to invoke executive privilege. That's the president's prerogative.
In a separate development today, senior Senate Republicans Chuck Grassley and Lindsey Graham referred the former British spy Christopher Steele, who compiled the Trump dossier, to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution. The senators accused Steele of lying about the dossier's distribution, which included American reporters. A senior Senate Democrat said the referral is deeply partisan. Brett.
Catherine, you first reported last January the Clinton Foundation was under investigation, and now we are hearing from U.S. officials that those pay-to-play allegations are getting a second look.
Well, that's right. A source tells Fox News the Justice Department is investigating allegations the Clinton Foundation used pay-to-play tactics when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. We're told this investigation is led by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they are considering whether the foundation violated tax law. We also understand multiple witnesses have been interviewed. The White House press secretary told Fox today the investigation is justified.
There's certainly been a lot of information out there that I think gives all of us cause for concern, and I think it's important that they're finally taking a look at it.
A Clinton spokesman responded time after time the Clinton Foundation has been subjected to politically motivated allegations, and time after time these allegations have been proven false. None of this has made us waver in our mission to help people. Brett.
And just to be clear, this is separate from what we understand to be another look at the email investigation.
That's correct.
Okay, Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Jeff Sessions, you love Jeff Sessions. He's doing a good job.
We have been weakened in our investigation into very important concerns at the Department of Justice and at the FBI because Jeff Sessions isn't able to take the reins and to direct that investigation. I believe it may be time for him to step aside.
Right now, he's focused on doing his job. We're focused on doing ours. We don't have any reason to see that there's anything different today than there was yesterday.
Talking there about the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, under fire from some lawmakers about how he's handled investigations, the Justice Department, the FBI. Now, the White House lawyer, Don McGahn, is coming under some scrutiny after a New York Times story. Obstruction inquiry shows Trump's struggle to keep grip on Russia investigation. President Trump, quote, gave firm instructions in March to the White House's top lawyer, stop the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, from recusing himself in the Justice Department's investigation into whether Trump's associates had helped a Russian campaign to disrupt the 2016 election. Mr. McGahn was unsuccessful, and the president erupted in anger in front of numerous White House officials, saying he needed his Attorney General to protect him. Mr. Trump said he had expected his top law enforcement official to safeguard him the way he believed Robert F. Kennedy, as Attorney General, had done for his brother John F. Kennedy and Eric Holder had for Barack Obama. Continuing with this story. So what about this development, the Russia investigation, and we'll talk about the other investigations that now the Justice Department is involved in. Let's bring in our panel. Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. A.B. Stoddard, associate editor at Real Clear Politics and host of No Labels Radio on Sirius XM, and Matt Schlapp, contributor with The Hill. Okay, Byron, let's start with this story, and we've confirmed that there was an effort, not only McGahn, but other officials asking Sessions not to recuse himself in the Russia investigation, which he eventually did.
Well, the other officials is important because there were a bunch of people telling Jeff Sessions, don't do it, don't recuse. The Democrats are trying to push you into this. This is a bad idea. And I would suppose that Jeff Sessions gets points for standing up to the whatever pressure this was.
Not with President Trump.
Well, not with President Trump, but he did defy the president's wishes here by going ahead and recusing himself, because he had gotten a lot of advice, not just from the career people in the Justice Department, but also other people that he trusted in the legal world, that he had to do this. I don't think this is a huge deal. The other thing in the New York Times story about Sessions was that it suggested that an aide to Sessions had gone to Capitol Hill looking for dirt on Jim Comey. That was the weakest part of the story, and it's the one the Justice Department very, very specifically said did not happen.
But what, we obviously have all the things that came out and have come out in this book, this new book, and among them some new eyebrow-raising allegations about possible obstruction that people are looking into about Air Force One, and we talked about that last night on the panel. But A.B., what about the White House attorney, his role, and is this a problem for McGahn?
Once again, McGahn was taking orders from his boss, his principal, and doing what everyone around Donald Trump does, which is to follow instructions. The president, as we know, because he's been very public about this, felt very strongly about this and believes that it is the role of congressional Republicans, as he told Mitch McConnell, to protect him. That's why he wanted the Russia probes on the Hill curtailed. And it was the role of the Attorney General to protect him. I don't know how much exposure Don McGahn has as a result of this, but what's very concerning, I think, is that you see a real campaign now to bring down Jeff Sessions. It is no longer the President of the United States. It is many members on Capitol Hill, Congressmen Meadows and Jordan's writing in the Washington Examiner yesterday that because he allows leaks, he's not in control. It is because of what he cannot do, because of the recusal, that they say he's failing at his job. It's really an unbelievable allegation. He did what he thought was the right thing to avoid any appearance of impropriety, and as a result, they want someone in there that will stick it to Rod Rosenstein or Bob Mueller and operate those probes the way that the president wants them operated.
It is quite something to see the turn here. Remember, Sessions was one of the first, if not the first, he was the first senator, but lawmaker to endorse Donald Trump. He stood up for him in the darkest of hours after the Access Hollywood tape came out. I interviewed him that night. And now this has all turned.
Right. I think the biggest problem Jeff Sessions has had in this long, long year is that he picked a career number 2 as the Deputy Attorney General. Now, why is that an issue? That's an issue because when he recused himself, he recused the investigation over to somebody who was, let's just say, awfully damn cautious about each one of these questions on not only how you manage the FBI, and it is their job to manage the FBI, but all these other questions and investigations. Now we find out a year later that they're starting to take some sure-footed steps on the investigations on the clear wrongdoing of Hillary Clinton. And the second question here is Don McGahn, and I want to say this aggressively. I am not a lawyer. I talked to lawyers who served in the White House counsel's office for the president I worked for. They believe that Don McGahn acted 100% correctly, that they would have done exactly the same thing, Brett. It is their job as the White House lawyer, as the counsel to the president, to make the legal case to the Attorney General about why you don't have to recuse. Now, the only correction I would make is that Sessions had already gone to the internal lawyers and already gotten guidance that he needed to recuse himself. So what Don did was exactly right. And when he realized Sessions had already gotten that guidance, he pulled back. So he's acted completely appropriately, and I think the New York Times story is completely off.
And sources are saying that he talked about a whole bunch of things, including that recusal. I want to turn to what you mentioned, the Clinton investigation, and obviously the president's talked about that a lot.
She engaged in corrupt pay-for-play at the State Department for personal enrichment.
She lied to the FBI, and she lied to the American people many, many times.
I think that's good news. Certainly, I think there have been a lot of things that give us cause for concern, and I think it's a great thing that it's being looked at. And we'll have to wait and see what happens, but there's certainly been a lot of information out there that I think gives all of us cause for concern, and I think it's important that they're finally taking a look at it, and we'll see what comes from it.
I have not seen any evidence to conclude that those allegations are accurate, so it should be pursued.
And here's a statement from the Clinton camp, Nick Merrill. Let's call it what it is, a sham. This is a philanthropy about the Clinton Foundation that does life-changing work, which Republicans have tried to turn into a political football. It began with a long-debunked project spearheaded by Steve Bannon during the presidential campaign. It continues with Jeff Sessions doing Trump's bidding by heeding his calls to meddle with a department that's supposed to function independently. The goal is to distract from the indictments, guilty pleas, and accusations of treason from Trump's own people at the expense of our justice system's integrity. It's disgraceful and should be concerning to all Americans. Byron, we should point out it's not only now the Clinton Foundation, which was an investigation, now is getting a second look, but obviously the email situation is also getting a fresh look.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I would not absolutely assume that the Clinton Foundation investigation was closed and over. Back in November, Stephen Boyd, a top Justice Department official, when the House lawmakers that you were talking about, who were putting pressure on Sessions, they want him to appoint some special counsels, Stephen Boyd writes to the House Judiciary Committee and said, okay, we'll take a look at this. And we will include looking at whether any matters currently under investigation require further resources. It could be that foundation investigation has been going on quietly the whole time.
FBI office in Arkansas and New York, we're told. New interviews in recent weeks.
Let it go.